So a friend of mine asked me how many more places we need to go to before we settle down. And I realized I don't know if I want to. That more so that I don't even think that it was on my mind to settle down in that traditional sense. And I get what she's saying. A lot of people have called me and talked to me and DM me and asked me, like, girl, what's up? What's your plans? What's she gonna do? And it's crazy how I went from planning to just being like, I'm going with the flow. And I'm wondering if that is where I've always been, like what has always been true to me, or if being abroad and doing this work is bringing that out in me. I think that's the question I have for myself that I'm pondering now. I want to share with you what I realized on this journey with moving abroad and what that looks like. So basically, story time, a friend of mine DM'd me and was like, girl, how you doing? What's up? How you feeling? How's it going? I share with her that it's good. It's everyday life. I have a sense of what we're doing. I have a flow and I'm enjoying myself. I have a sense of like I still have that sense of like we did it, even though I don't feel like it's a surreal situation anymore. But when she replied back to me, she used the word settled. And I'm like, I'm settled in my spirit. I'm settled in the feeling of that I have in this feeling that I have that we made the right and aligned choice for us in this season and for our family, even though things come up, thoughts come up about the trade offs and the sacrifices that I've talked about in other videos when you move abroad with your family. Um, and then really having to decide whether or not it's just worth it. And for now, for me, it feels worth it. But I was taken aback by the word. When we were moving abroad, y'all, I planned that sucker out. I planned that sucker as much as I can plan. I got all the planning out of the planning that I could plan because the reality is that it was a huge decision, even though it felt like the aligned decision. And here's the thing, people often look at me crazy when I tell them that we moved to Panama and we had never visited. And then sometimes I'm in the Uber and I'm practicing my Spanish and they ask me, I'm like, am I here for work? And I'm like, no. Or they'll ask me if I have family here and I'll be like, no. And then they're confused as to why I'm here. Like I just came. Um, and we're here. And I talked about us, the journey to from I thought we're going to be nomadic to, signing a lease for a year. I think that was a really great decision. I think it helped us really feel grounded in a space and feel what that feels like. And then maybe get a little bit of itch for moving around a little bit more and trying out being nomad for the next year or the year after that or something to that nature and planning out what that looks like. Because it's only been 6 months, even though it feels like longer. So we've just kind of, what do they say? Hit the tip of the iceberg when it comes to traveling and being abroad. And we're just getting started, basically. So when she talked about being settled, I was just like, that's not even in my mind. Like, I'm hoping that we get even more nomadic after this space. And what I realized about myself was that I didn't want to necessarily plan what's next. I just wanted to see how we felt and move from that space. And it's crazy what it looks like because ultimately it looks like, sorry y'all, the wind is winding over there and I just feel like I need to perhaps perhaps move. So hopefully you're not getting too dizzy with me. I had color coded timelines. I had checklists. I had spreadsheets of everything you would think of. I had spreadsheets of the elevation levels of all of the places we want to go. I still have that because I'm prone to motion sickness. I get seasickness. I get what's the other when you break the morning sickness that for me was not just the morning. So I was like, I'm probably gonna get altitude sickness. So I at least need to know what the elevation is for some of these places that we want to go. So I had that. Like I planned as much as I can plan. I talked to families who had done it. I talked to families with young kids, families with kids closer to my daughter's age, and just had conversations with them what the process was, their pros and cons, their why, what felt aligned to them, any tips that they had. And yeah, we moved to a place that we hadn't seen before, but my thought was like, we can always move someplace else. There's not, I never felt like there was this sense of, oh, I'm going to be stuck in that traditional sense of being stuck somewhere. I'm like, I don't even know what that looks like to me. Stuck is like you really have nowhere else to go, or your resources have dried up. And that's real. Like if your resources dry up, if there's something, but there's usually some place, you can figure out, you can go, you can call somebody. So being stuck wasn't something I was that was even in the forefront of my mind. So I planned a lot. I say that to say. But now, when I think about what the next chapter looks like for us abroad as a family, when I think about the places on our list that we made that we wanted to go, and that this was the first stop on that list in having our adventures, in um exploring as a family and with the kids, I'm like, okay, what's next? How do we feel? And it may shift and it may change. And I don't have this thing where I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit these 5 places. This is our criteria list, even though I do have a criteria list. I made a spreadsheet on that. Like, what are the things we would look for in a home base? And I'm just kind of like, do we feel like we want to stay here for another 6 months? Do we feel like we want to stay here for another year? Do we feel like we want to move out of the apartment that we're in when that time comes up next year? Do we feel like we want to um try out the nomadic thing and hit up a few countries in the region, work on our Spanish, and do the thing? Like, what do we feel like doing? And then yeah, having some planning, but not planning so rigidly that I can't move with the flow. I think that was, I had shared on this channel in the beginning, that was one of the things that I struggled with when I thought we were going to move more nomadically, and we ended up being more settled here. But I've embraced it, and it's been a really beautiful adventure, honestly. It's been really revealing. It's been really beneficial. It's been a wonderful experience, and experiment in pivoting, in realizing that the way you thought it was going to go may not be the way that it's going to go. So this was our first foray into that. Um, And I feel like Panama was a great place to start it for a lot of reasons that I know I've shared before on this channel. But yeah, I am going with the flow, and I'm reflecting upon whether or not that's always been kind of my state. But when you're in mode, sometimes you do tend to want to plan things out. A lot of times because you want to have some semblance of control. And by you, I mean us, those of us who feel this, who feel me, we want to have some semblance of control when so many things feel like they're out of our control. So I'm like, I'm going to plan this to the T. I'm going to plan this as much as I can, versus even though I know that everything's out of my control, but as much as in my control, I want to control. I want to know that I have some idea of how it could go, and I have a contingency plan. I don't think any of those things are bad. So I was surprised to notice how I shifted, and feeling like I don't need to do that so much, that my plans can be more flexible and more lax. And it doesn't need to necessarily, I feel like I should be holding this up higher, but my arm's going to get tired. Um, they can be more flexible, they can be more lax. And things may very well not go in my favor, but guess what? I planned a lot. Still things went a little left. Still found out a couple things, the hard way. So I feel like that's gonna happen either way. So I'm coming to this space. It feels good. It feels comfortable. It feels, I'm a little reluctant to use this word, but I feel like it's apropos. It feels really freeing to not be necessarily beholden to a plan, to feel like we're not beholden to anyone's timetable, to feel like, hey, we can move here and do this. And that was the feeling that we wanted to have in the first place. And we have it. And it's just about riding that wave, and also changing things, not being afraid to change things up when things need to be changed up. So yeah, when friends reach out and be like, "So what you gonna do?" and "So what's your plan?" I've gotten real comfortable and be like, "I don't know exactly. We might do this. We might, stay another year. We might, travel around the region next year and map that out. And we're gonna map it out anyway, just to see what it looks like. What could it look like? Let's vision in that space. Let's be in that space. Let's see what that would mean for us and have some fun with it. It might not look like a spreadsheet. It might not be color coded, but it'll be good, and we can have some fun with it. At least in my head, that's not at least in my head. I feel like both my husband and I both feel that way. Okay, so I'm afraid of height, and I realize how I'm leaning back, and I was like, wait. So if you see me looking, it's just because this is cement. This is sturdy, but there's something that happens in my body when I'm next to some place where I feel like I could fall. There's a possibility if somehow I levitated or a strong wind came. Um, but I'm good. I'm feeling I'm feeling grounded. You saw me. That was a moment. But yeah, that's I think moving abroad or taking on a new position or leaving a job so that you can build a business or whatever new venture really, just took you right up on out your comfort zone. There's such potential for you to learn to be where your feet are and be present even more so, and to go with the flow because you did something that scared you a little bit. You did something that made you a little bit uncomfortable. You did something that took you out of a place that was familiar and that you understood how things worked, and you put yourself in a place where you didn't fully understand how things worked, or you thought you understood and it turned out to be something different. When you put yourself in those situations, I think there's such potential for our our reflection and our growth around how good are we change. How good are we when it comes to going with the flow? How well do we pivot when we need to pivot? How well do we like, whoop, that didn't go the way that I planned, but here we are now. What's next? And that mindset in and of itself, I think that's the freeing part. Outside of being abroad, outside of traveling, that shift in thinking, in perspective, that's what really feels free. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you all today. I was in reflection with it. This video hopefully wasn't, it definitely was windy. You see, I'm really working on several alfalfa situations here with the wind. But I hope it wasn't too all over the place. If you feel me, let me know down below. If um, if you're here and you made it to the end, you're in a elite group of people that have a wonderful attention span. Let me know. Say hey down below so that I can say hey back to you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm Imani Aisha. I make videos so that we can lean into our shifts and changes and transitions and encouraging us to just connect with ourselves, connect with your partners, and stay connected to creating a life that feels good to you, because we only get the one. So if that's your vibe, please subscribe. Thank you so much for being here, and let's continue the conversation. I appreciate you.